All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tess, and I am the ag educator here at CCE Madison. And tonight we're going to talk about seed saving and kind of the history that goes along with it. And we're going to talk a little bit about sustainability and why it is important to save your seeds and how that can help us going forward. And we're going to just chat a little bit about some history and different things around seed saving. So if you have questions, we do have it set up so you can't unmute yourself, I don't believe. And go ahead and put your questions in the chat box, and myself or Patty will try and catch those and answer them as we go. I will likely turn my video off while I'm speaking, at least for part of it. So you probably won't see my little face up in the corner, or if you do, it'll just be a photograph of me instead of the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Maybe I'm gonna. Well, sorry about that. I thought I had this all figured out. Hang on one second. Okay, here we are. Okay, so we're going to talk today about planting with purpose, seed saving for sustainability. Again, my name is Tess Southern, and I work for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Madison County. I am the agriculture educator here at our office. Let's talk a little bit about sustainability, and I can move the screen here. What is sustainability? So sustainability focuses on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. The concept of sustainability is comprised of three pillars: economic, environmental, and social, also known informally as profits, planet, and people. So as we're thinking about sustainability and the things that we want to leave behind for those that will be here for generations to come, seeds are one of the things that, we have wonderful plants and flowers, vegetables, etc., that we are able to pass on to those further generations. And if we start saving now and planting those plants yearly and continue to grow them in our own gardens, we can pass those down to our family members as time moves on. So as you think about sustainability in seed saving in particular, think about what you're able to pass to your family members, a good hearty meal to them, fresh out of your garden, and something that you grew now that they could be growing 100 years from now. Seeds like to tell a story. So seeds are unique to their own species. They are every single one is different yet the same. They all of the same to their own species. They are different but the same. They can look a little bit different, but they might be the same. And we're going to go over that in the next slide and see how things are different yet similar. So there's a project that is based out of Harvard University. It's the Arnold Arboretum Seed Herbarium. And the goal of that is to collect images of thousands of seeds and keep these images as a way to help with plant identification. Just want to check the chat really quick. I can't tell if there's anything going on in there.
Hey Tess, everything's fine in the chat. I've been keeping an eye on it.
Perfect, thank you. I can't see it, so I'm struggling with that. Seeds are, oops, now I just Sorry, guys. It's like it's my first day on the job here. Here we go. I got this to work a little better now. Now I can at least see the chat. But now I'm many pages behind. So they have taken lots of pictures of seeds just to help us with plant identification over the years. So I do have some photos of that. This collection of images supports scientists and horticulturalists, propagators, nurseries, and educators in conservation research and management of rare and endangered species. So these digitized images of seeds offer an important aid for teaching seed identification, which is great for sustainability for the years to come, and for propagation and for making hybrids and being able to distribute these seeds. So let's talk about some of the differences that we see in these two here. So this is the same seed. We were trying to figure out what years they were from. We do know that the collection date on the one on the left is from 1969. There is not a known date for the one on the right. And so if we go off of its number and qualifier, it does say 120-2006, so we can make an assumption that it was possibly collected in, you know, the early 2000s. So what differences do you see here? I don't know if the chat's working or not. Patty, again, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm afraid Megan hasn't answered, so I'm not sure if she's got the chat available to her right now.
So I'll just talk about it a little bit. So the one on the left is a little bit more yellow. The one on the right is a little lighter in color, more of that pale peachy pink sort of color. And it looks as though the one on the left maybe has somewhat of a thicker shell around it. You know, the casing that's around the seed looks to be quite a bit thicker than the one on the right. Slightly different shape. The one on the left is a little more round. And these just could be differences that have happened to make it easier to germinate over the years and different things like that. So it's good to identify that there are differences amongst the same seeds, so that, you know, for generations to come, you're going to be able to see those differences and be able to identify what you have right now. Patty, was she able to chime in with anything?
No, I don't see her on there. She's, okay. Yeah.
Then I will just move forward.
Okay.
So one of the things that we thought that we would bring up today is that seeds can be brought back to life. You can bring the plant back to life, even though it's something you haven't seen for years and years and years. So National Geographic had some research done and did an article that said a 32,000-year-old plant was brought back to life. This is likely the oldest plant to ever be regenerated. The one that they had previously thought was only about 2,000 years old. So this is, 30,000 years beyond that. So a Russian team had discovered seeds of and I'm sorry that I butcher these names, Silene stenophylla, and that is a flowering plant that's native to Siberia that likely had been buried during the Ice Age by some sort of squirrel near the banks of a river. And so the dating, radiocarbon dating confirmed that the seed was approximately 32,000 years old. There were mature and immature seeds, which had been entirely encased in ice, and they were unearthed about 120 feet below the permafrost and surrounded by layers that had mammoths and bison and woolly rhinoceros bones, which is absolutely amazing to me. And so some of the seeds have been damaged and, possibly even by the squirrel itself. But some of the immature seeds retained, their viable plant material. And so the team was able to extract tissue from these frozen seeds and successfully germinate them into plants. And so, according to that study, that's a phenomenal feat that they were able to handle there. So the plants were identical to each other, but with a different flower shape from the modern similar plant. So after a year, they were able to create seeds of their own from this particular plant. So seeds can ensure a future for us. This is, and again, I'm not great at pronunciation, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, and it was built in 2008, and it stores more than 850,000 seed samples from nations all over the world. It extends nearly 500 feet into a mountain, and its intention is to safeguard the planet's food supply and biodiversity in an event of some sort of catastrophe. And so it is there through the Crop Trust. And this company that runs the Seed Vault says this vault is basically a final backup. So, if we need seeds in case of some sort of catastrophe, then they would be there for us. They went on to say on the website that the purpose of the vault is to store duplicates or backups of seed samples from the world's crop collections, and that it will secure for centuries millions of seeds representing every important crop variety available in the world today. I was able to do a little research on their website and saw that when it first started, they had about 150 countries who had stored seeds there. I tried to do some extra research and see if the United States have seeds there. I was not able to find that information. I would be surprised if we didn't have something there. So let's talk about how seeds can be unpredictable. So plants often cross-pollinate with each other, producing hybrids between species, and sometimes this can be good and sometimes this is not so good. So when we save seeds, this might require some diligence so that we can trust these varieties from year to year. So some species like to cross more than others. Example, the gourd family. So they call them cucurbits. They like to cross a little more than others. So think about times that you've been in your garden and your squash starts to cross with your pumpkins, and I'm trying to remember what Patty calls them, squumpkins, I believe.
You got it, squumpkins.
Where you're crossing your squash and your pumpkin, and not necessarily on purpose. They just happen to do that of their own volition there. So if you plan to save seeds, sometimes it's safe to assume that you may need to do some of that pollination by hand. So, you can wait and see when a flower is starting to come along on say, we'll call out zucchini right now. And if those tend to open more in the morning or, later in the day after early morning, you can go out in the early morning and catch that closed flower and mark it so you know that that's the one that you need to pollinate, and you can go out and you can actually hand pollinate that to ensure that you will have one, and you'll have, again, you've tied it, and so you know that there's a little flag there that says that's the one that you know is safe to save seeds from, that it is not cross-pollinated. And then you would put a bag over it, a paper bag, after you've pollinated it. So it keeps the pollinators out, and it knows that, you know that you have pollinated that one. And so you're sure to have only zucchini and not squumpkins. Right, Patty? So preventing cross-pollination can be as hard as planting varieties far apart, and sometimes that can be miles and miles apart. Or, as I said, bagging the flowers to prevent pollinator access after you've hand pollinated. So let's talk a little bit about self-pollination versus cross-pollination. Self-pollination, or selfing, is pollination, and this is going to refer to a little bit the flower part of it. Pollination of flower ovules by its own pollen can happen before the flower even opens, and can happen on only can happen on perfect flowers. So perfect flowers are those flowers that have both male and female parts. Cross-pollination is the pollination by pollen from a completely different plant of the same species. So this can happen on both perfect and imperfect flowers. Imperfect would be that they are, a plant is either specifically male or specifically female. So I'm going to direct you to the two pictures in the corner. These are cone flowers, and you can see there's a lovely yellow and a lovely pink-orange shade there. Most of you will know the common purple cone flower. And so an example with perfect versus imperfect, these may pollinate each other, and I might be botching this. Patty might have to save me here. So if you have pollinated to make sure that you get yellow or get that pink-orange color, and you put it out there and it cross-pollinates with the purple, if you save the seeds and you plant again, the likelihood that it will go back to its original state, which would be the purple, is a little bit higher if it's crossing with its original type. So just so you're aware of that. So if you want to plant them so that they don't turn back to purple, plant your purple far away from your yellows and your oranges. So moving on, there are hybridizers, which are only required to show that their new varieties can stay true to type in a closed system of self-pollination. In other words, oh, this is where I was supposed to talk about the flowers, not perfect versus imperfect. Sorry, everyone. Your echinacea and your columbine may cross like crazy and reseed, but eventually you might lose the variety of the color. So if you have your purples and your yellows of the coneflower planted near each other, then they may revert back to that purple. Self-pollinating plants are more likely to stay true to type and not revert back. Some plants are designed so that they can only be cross-pollinated. Crossing ensures greater genetic diversity, which also ensures the survival of the species. So some of the plants that self-pollinate, and I know we've mostly been talking about vegetables and things through Planting with Purpose. So this is a list of mostly things that we're going to eat. Tomatoes, green peppers and chili peppers, eggplants, green beans, lima beans, sweet peas, lettuce, sunflowers, orchids, wheat, barley, oats, rice, potatoes, apricots, peaches, and cherries. They are all known self-pollinators. So self-pollination can ensure some kind of pollination, the goal of which is to produce offspring or seeds, but often the best pollination leading to the most fruit is through cross-pollination. Plants that rely on self-pollination often have a smaller flower with the reproductive parts very close together. So here's an example with the tomato, and you can see there that it's so closed up and close together that it is only going to be able to pollinate itself. Patty, did we have any questions?
Nope, it doesn't look like it.
Okay, thank you. So plants that cross-pollinate, some of the things that you would look at: apples, grapes, plums, pears, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, runner beans, zucchini, cucumbers, melons, pumpkins, daffodils, tulips, lavender, types of grasses, dandelions, and maple trees. And this photo here shows the pollen that would be floating around in the air, and that is where the cross-pollination happens. That pollen will float from one to another and do the cross-pollination job instead of it doing it of its own within the tight quarters that we showed you on that tomato plant on the flower. So as you can see, some of the pollen has the little spiky bits on it. So those of you who fight with seasonal allergies, the one with the spikes is a lot like that on the ragweed that we see around here. And so this is why our noses get so tickly and that kind of thing when they get floating around. So should you breed your own? And this is where we think the fun kicks in. So it is possible through selection to isolate your own varieties. You would need to save seeds from your plants, which are the parents. You would plant several of those seeds the following year, so that's the progeny. And then you would watch closely for traits that differ from the original parents of the, move pages here. I'm sorry. Watch closely for traits that differ from the original parents you collected the seeds from. So as you watch the progeny, remove any plants that exhibit undesirable traits and keep plants that exhibit one or more of the desirable traits. And then you'll be able to purify that genetic material in the next batch of seeds. So it does take some time. You would let the desirable ones go to seed and collect those seeds, repeating this process the following year. So it can take a little while to get exactly what you're looking for, but don't lose hope in it. Just continue on. So how do you select those seeds to save? So you would want to choose healthy plants to save the seeds from in order to avoid any of the seed-borne diseases that are out there. So when possible, you'll want to observe the parent plants throughout the entire season so that you can see, how healthy they are, what they look like, if they have the desirable characteristics that you want. So this may take a little while to do that. Keep things simple at the start and try selecting plants that only bear fruit within their first season of planting. So you wouldn't want to, one that Patty and I have just discussed while we were working on this was beets. You would have to wait, it would be year 2 that you would actually start collecting the seeds. So you wouldn't want to start with that. It might discourage you from moving on unless you like a really good challenge. But if you want to start and you want to keep it simple, remember some of the plants that we said were cross-pollinators, or that remember the ones that are cross-pollinators and select the ones that are not. So good starters would be tomatoes, peppers, and peas. Those are all things that you'll get seeds in the first year. They won't cross-pollinate, so you won't have any issues with, or you should have very limited issue with having something that becomes a hybrid, or something that was cross-pollinated, so you won't have any swampkins. You would likely get tomatoes, peppers, and peas from those. Try not to save your last remaining fruit for the seeds. By doing this, you can actually be selecting a crop that has like a late growing characteristic. So you would want to choose a very healthy looking, choose some very healthy looking fruit from maybe the middle of the growing season. Just keep your eye on them as you're looking. But you know, if you choose the late growing ones, you could always end up getting a late crop going forward because you've genetically picked that characteristic within your crop of seeds. Also, as you select seeds from your own property, you will actually begin to create your own food culture. So these seeds are going to become unique to your climate and your home. You know, if you did want to choose something that was a late crop, and you knew you wanted that as a late crop, then, you know, that's something that's going to be unique to your garden. And so you have gotten that within your seeds from a characteristic that you've chosen over the years. So I think that's really important to know that you can make those choices and that you're going to have your own climate and food culture there right at your own home. So some seed treatments specifically for vegetables. When it comes to saving, you want a clean, dry location for storage. Now, I always think, oh, the refrigerator, that's not dry, but a great place to store your seeds is in the refrigerator. Storing them in a paper envelope or some sort of jar with a little bit of airflow. So take a baby food jar, for instance. There's, you know, not filling it too full so that you will get some air in there. This will prevent molding and you ruining the seeds. Making sure that they are super dry is the key to having them not mold. When it comes to replanting planting for the first time, not replanting, but you'll be planting those seeds. One of the tricks is to get them to germinate is soaking them overnight in water. Plants whose seeds have a very thick outer coat can be used to replace, So sometimes the best germination actually comes from a combination of scarification and soaking. And so you might want to do both of those things. And lastly, if no one has any questions, I just want to bring your attention to some resources that we have on seed saving. So Cornell Small Farms had an article out in 2014, which is still a very, very current article, 4 easy seeds to save this season. I would recommend that everyone take a look at that. We can also send that out in an email if anybody would like it. There's also a library guide that I would encourage you all to look at through Cornell. It's the second one listed there. If anyone was interested in looking at the Harvard study that was the photos of seeds in different times looking just slightly different, but the same seeds, that's listed there. And then we have some of the articles that were posted throughout, also listed below. So I do want to open it up and see if anybody had any questions. I know I kind of went through that really quickly, but I'm happy to answer any questions and go over anything that you want to go over. So if you want to put questions in the chat box, I'm happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions? I know some of you joined a little bit late, but we did record everything. So if you registered on Zoom, which you should have if you're here, then we'll be sending you a link with the recorded version of the program. And of course, we're always available for questions afterwards as well.
Looks like, oh, you're so welcome, Megan. She said, thank you for your presentation. You're so welcome. I hope I answered some of the questions that you might have had. Seed saving is not my number one topic. I will let everyone know that. I am learning just as much as you guys are. So I'm, if you have questions and I can't answer them, I'm happy to do some research and get back to you on anything. Are any of you planning to do any seed saving this year? If you want to pop the answer in the chat box. Or I could try and do a poll here, maybe. Jen, was that yes, that you're planning to do seed saving, and no problem that you're on late? We did record it, so.
I just want to mention that there are some very good books too available on seed saving. If you get a chance to just go on Google or Amazon, there's some great literature out there about it that goes into quite a bit of detail. So, and Seed Savers Exchange is a website too that's got a lot of good information about people who save seeds all the time and know lots about it.
Yes, I think that is one of the resources that I posted on that last slide also. So hopefully you guys will be able to look out the Seed Savers. That's great. Amanda says she usually saves tomato seeds every year and want to learn to save other plants. Well, hopefully we have been able to answer some of those questions, but if you have other questions, definitely feel free to shoot an email or give us a call, and we're happy to look into further things for you.
Megan has in the chat that she's going to be getting potato apples again this year and plant the seeds to see what happens. And I'm not familiar with potato apples. Is that a particular kind of apple, or I've not heard of that? Megan, would you mind filling me in the chat box? Potato berries. Huh.
That's something I'm going to have to look into now.
They grow on
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I think I have seen those before. They have do they turn red? That does sound familiar.
If different strains cross, okay.
Huh. Sounds like you have a plant breeder in the making, Megan, there. It's kind of fun, actually, if you see the different characteristics. And then Jen says that she's new to gardening, so she was curious about the topic. Well, this was a good class then, a nice introduction to it. And like Tess said, you can always contact us if you have questions.
Yeah, we also have this and it looks like it might be backwards for you guys, that if you're interested, this is a great little like brochure from the South Dakota Extension. It's from 2002, but it's still, very current information, called Seed Saving for Next Year. And they just go into such detail in such a short you know, it's just a few pages. But we would be happy to send this to anyone who wants it also. It just has some really good basic but in-depth information. And so this is part of what I used, and I think that this would be really good for all of you if you're new, or even if you've been doing it for years, you know, you might pick up a little something from this. So we would be happy to send that if you want to let us know, either in the chat or via email. I'm happy to send these out to whoever would like them. Did we have any other questions?
Doesn't look like it. Is there a program? Amanda just said she got on the call late. Is there a program about grafting fruit trees?
So we have not done one recently about grafting. It is something that we have been asked about. So if you don't mind, I'm going to add that to my list, which I have an ongoing list of things that people have been asking about. So I'm working on all of my programming for the next couple of months, and that is something that I would happily try and fit in. If you're interested, Amanda, I can let you know. We did have a fruit tree program not too long ago, but I don't believe we went super into grafting at all, did we, Patty?
No, not really. It was mostly about pruning and
Right.
general stuff. If you would like a copy of that colored flyer leaflet, really, that Tess held up earlier, I just put my email address in the chat box. Please just email me your mailing address, where you'd like it sent, and we will pop a copy of that into the mail for you.
Any more questions out there? I know this was a short and sweet program tonight, so those of you who hopped on late, I was already through a lot of it. So I apologize for that, but it is something that if you need further information, a lot of seed saving is almost a case-by-case basis, you know, going through, and if we would have been able to do this in person, we could have actually taken some fruit, collected seeds, and done some more hands-on. It's hard to show you that through video, so I apologize that we aren't able to do that.
Okay, and Amanda, yep, Jen, actually, we have a couple. Jen wanted to know about virtual field trips for young children.
Yes, Jen. So our 4-H department is going to be working on some virtual stuff moving forward. They just did a bucket program, which was great. They did 3 weeks worth of buckets where the kids could hop on every day and see a new project coming out of the bucket. And then we were not able to have Open Farm Day in person this year, if you know about our Open Farm Day. But we are moving that to a virtual tour. So we're actually going to have 10 virtual field trips, if you will. We're going to have 10 Open Farm Day farms participating. And so the month of September, so we'll be starting, it'll be September 1st to October 1st. We're going to post at least 2 farm tours a week, typically on Tuesday and Thursday. And so you'll be able to join us to see all sorts of different farms throughout the month of September. So I apologize, that's kind of back to school time, but they'll be posted online, and you'll be able to go on and watch those anytime you'd like. Oh yeah, you're a pre-K teacher, and yeah, you can share those in class. So we're gonna be recording those soon, and we can let you know when all of that happens. Amanda, let's see, thank you. Amanda, did you and your husband possibly come to a program? You might have come to our fruit tree program, maybe. I could be wrong. But yes, we would love to work on grafting and maybe get some information for you. And I will work on getting a program together on that, because I that is one thing that we get asked about a lot. So I will start working on that. That's great. You guys are like, I'm loving all of this. I don't have very many attendees, but you guys have awesome questions.
I have a question for all of you, if you don't mind. Being Ag Program Coordinator, we want to make sure we're offering things at a good time for you. And I noticed so many of you got on later. So was 5 o'clock not the best time? Would it have been better if it were maybe 5:30 or 6 o'clock? Please answer in the chat box and we will make adjustments for upcoming programs, because we definitely want to make it, you know, good for you guys so you can come.
6 p.m.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we were having them a little later, and then Jen just forgot.
Jen forgot.
Fell after my own heart. So we were having them a little later, and then we weren't having great participation, and we moved them up, and then now we've had even less. So we're trying to find that sweet spot for when is the best time for people. So we'll take that into consideration, that 6 is better for you, Amanda. Thank you. Does anybody have any more questions pertaining to seeds, or any just generic agricultural questions that I can answer? If you got seeds from us from Planting with Purpose, did you get them to grow? Are you harvesting anything yet?
Oop. Amanda wants to know if there's a text reminder option.
So we are just now getting up to date on how to better remind people of things. So far, we do not have a text reminder, but it is something that we have discussed, because we're finding that those unified texting systems seems to be a better option for a lot of people as a reminder. So that's something we will going to jot that down, and we'll look further into that. I don't tend to check my email later, and so I can understand that a text would be significantly easier to get.
Jen says, I don't want to take up too much of other people's time, but as a new participant in many NAITC programs, I'm wondering if there is a coordinator that works with classrooms on a regular basis. I know that many areas have this.
Yes. So in our office here, there are 2 of us who kind of work together. So Craig Brown is the coordinator here in Madison County for all of the Ag in the Classroom that we do. I am also somewhat of a coordinator. I work on the curriculum side of things. And so our focus in the past has been more with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. However, we just had some conversations about how we're going to make those classroom visits possible this year, because it might not be possible for us to get out into the classrooms. So we're going to likely be doing options where we have like a pickup time or a drop-off time where we drop off the lesson, and then we would have those lessons via Zoom. So if you want to, I'm going to put my email in here. If you want to send me an email, I am happy to chat with you about Ag in the Classroom anytime, and we can see what we can do for your classroom. We're always happy to have new people join us for that. You're so welcome. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I think I will let you all go for the night. But if you have anything that you think of later on, feel free to email Patty or myself. We're happy to answer anything that you have. And it's really great to kind of see you all, but not really see you all because I haven't seen any of your faces. That's the bad part about doing this as a webinar. I don't get to actually see everyone. So we hope you have a great night and be looking forward to our next workshop in a couple of weeks. Bye, guys.